Good morning, everyone. We're back and learning the Dvar Malchut. Some people came in a little bit late, so it's never too late. General principle, we just finished Pesach Sheni. Never too late to do something good. Never too late to do something good. Right? So let's give charity. We already gave charity this morning. Let's give charity. Wonderful. By the way, you see these beautiful pictures over here? Here, these pictures. One second. Yeah, not so beautiful. There we go. See these beautiful pictures? What am I doing? There we go. See this here picture, this picture. This is these pictures and a lot. There's a lot more by Baruch Nachshon. He passed away. He passed away, I think, less than a year ago. He lived in Hebron. Wonderful person. And the Rebbe saw his paintings and really liked his paintings. He said, "You're going to start a whole new whole way of Jewish painting," because there was a big dearth of art in Judaism. I mean, good art in Judaism. So he started, and these are his pictures. And I was in last Shabbat, last Shabbat, no, the Shabbat before that, I was by my son. He lives in Miron. That's where Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was buried. There was hundreds of thousands of people there. And his son came in. I never met his son before. And we had a long talk. Beautiful. And he said that his father became connected to Chabad because why he heard a Chabad song. He went to Chabad, he heard one of the Hasidim sing one of the Chabad songs, and that's it. It changed him. He was an artist person. Anyway, Baruch Nachshon, look for his pictures, beautiful pictures, especially his use of color. Here it doesn't bring it out exactly, but his color is fantastic. Okay, let's go. That was a total diversion from the class. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And this is a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Parshas Bamidbar in 1991. When the Rebbe was speaking, it came out that the holiday of Shavuot was right immediately after Shabbat. After Shabbat was Shavuot, and it's not that way this year. This year is the day. You skip one day. Shavuot is on Monday. In other words, Sunday night. By the Rebbe, this year the Rebbe was speaking. It came out on Shabbos, Motzi Shabbos. And by us it comes out Motzi Yom Rishon. Okay. But on the other hand, when the Rebbe was speaking, it was out, of course, the Rebbe is outside of Israel, so it was 2 days Shavuot. And by us here in Israel, it's only 1 day. So it comes out that both us in Israel, we celebrate Monday as Shavuot, and when the Rebbe, Monday was the second day of Shavuot. So what the Rebbe is saying here is very relevant. Also, the messages here of the holiday coming after Shabbat is relevant to us also. Ready? Let's go. Dover Pamim Rabot. We have spoken many times. Shebenosaf letochen aklali, that in addition to the general content of every holiday that's equal every year, right? The holiday of Passover, we got out of Egypt. The holiday of Shavuot, we received the Torah. Yeshnam gam limudim yuchadim. There's also special learning. We can learn specially from the how it comes out, the holiday in every individual year. And we express this in Umosifim. We can add on also energy and attention to actually utilize what we learn from the Yom Tov. In other words, if Shavuot falls out on Tuesday, it falls out on Wednesday, it falls out on whenever day it falls out, there's a special learning that we can learn from that. Okay. This year, Chag HaShavuot comes immediately after Shabbat. And like I said, by us, it doesn't come immediately after Shabbat. It comes 1 day, right? It comes the day after that. That the service of holiday of Shavuot, receiving the Torah, is made with v'tachat and affected by Shabbat. And especially there's no separation between them. Like I say, by the Rebbe, there wasn't a separation. By us, there's a separation of 1 day. If so, there comes out that there's 3 holy days in a row. Like I said, by the Rebbe, it was Shabbat and then 2 days of Shavuot. So it's 3 days in a row. Okay. Okay. Except for that, everything is going to be the same by us. Now just one small thing. Like we said before, the purpose of the Jews is to bring blessing and meaning and life and holiness. If you want to call it holiness, is sort of a very misunderstood word, to everything in the world. And God helps us. First of all, by letting us know that there is such a thing as meaning and blessing and holiness. God gives us little hints at it. First of all, there are the holidays. The holidays. Each one of the holidays is, like I say, it's a Yom Tov. The word Tov in Hebrew means shine. Also, it's good, it shines. So it says there are certain days when we feel a little bit more godly. We feel that the creation, there's much more to the creation than we're aware of. We feel it. And in the holidays, it's that way. And in Shabbat, it's also that way. Shabbat is also, you can feel something is happening. Okay, you can say it's psychological. It's a psychological thing. It could be. You can say it's psychological. But the Torah tells us that really something is happening. Really something is happening. Really on Shabbat, it's opening up a window to the infiniteness of God and how important to God this world is on Shabbat. And in Shavuot, it opens up a different way. The holiday of Shavuot, every holiday opens up its own window to our purpose in the world, why we're here, and how God wants us to make this world holy. Okay, this Shabbat that we're learning, this Shabbat, we can take a special message because that's why people are in the world in order to be educated. Education is an essential, perhaps we can say the most essential factor of life is education. It sort of goes back to what we said before. What's more important, education or good deeds, right? Well, I mean, without education, you can't have good deeds. You don't know what to do, right? So, of course, you have to put the education into action. But that's also part of education, that you have to be educated to know that, hey, now I have to do what I'm learning about. Who told you that? That's what the teacher said. You have to do it. So, okay, so that's part of education. So that's the whole idea of the Torah. The whole Torah is just education. The Jewish people are called the people of the book, not of the books. The book is the Torah, the ultimate education of absolute values and absolute, how do you say, life, how to express life in this world. Okay, so one of the chapters of the Torah is called Bamidbar. That's this week, what we're learning this week. What is Bamidbar? God, it starts off, God counts the Jews. In English, it's called numbers. In Hebrew, it's also called Pekudim, which also means numbers. But the famous name is Bamidbar because that's the first word in the Torah, but the first unusual word in this week's Torah portion. Okay. Kaviyut Kazu, that the holiday of Shavuot comes right after Bamidbar, Mechulekas, this is also divided into the days of the week. The first day of the week by the Rebbe was the holiday of Shavuot. By us, it's the second day of the week. This is the first day of the week. Shehud Dugmas Yom Rishon. This is like the first day of creation. I mean, maybe you've asked yourself, why is it that when we count the days, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we go back again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why not just count days? You know, ask your parent, what day is this? Today is the 475th million day of creation when they started. When did they start creating? Counting? From, you know, some time, whatever it was. Right? So why not count the days? Somebody has their excuse me that I see this, but someone has their microphone open, except for me. So it would be nice. Let's see, what this is mute. This is mute. Oh, Abba. No. Miriam Gibor. Could be you. Could be. Anyway, not important. I just hear all this background noise, which is, it's not the end of the world, but it would be better if it wasn't there. Okay. So it says, everything in the world, calling your name, everything, and especially Akashurim, things which have some connection to the Torah and the holidays and the Torah portions of the week are bashkacha pratis. Everything is exactly designed by God. Ubetachlit diuk, and ultimate exactness. Moving from this is understood. From this, when we say that the holiday of Shavuot, we have to have a special teaching that holiday of Shavuot comes right after Shabbat. There must be a special teaching. Everything is directly by God. I mean, I just thought of this, and you can, maybe it's wrong, but if you look at how many creations there are in the world, people and animals and bugs and things like that, and they all have these tremendously complicated nervous systems and respiratory systems and circulatory systems, and they all work. They all work. Now you can say, oh, that's evolution. It's just evolution because the survival of the fittest, and these things just work. But I'm sure the evolutionists will find an answer to this. But it's just so amazing, just the whole a bug, how a bug works, its respiratory system, and where it gets its food, it nourishes. What is it? It's whole how it eats and how it breathes, and there's billions and billions of bugs, and they all work. So how can you say that this all works? Nature. It seems to me it's a little bit sort of unnatural that nature could work that way. Is there anything that works in such a complicated fashion? And in every single bug is complicated, miraculous. And there's billions and billions, who knows how many trillions of bugs and amoebas and things, and it all works. So you can say that's just nature, but on the other hand, you can say, listen, there has to be the hand of God in this whole business. There has to be some sort of a spiritual. You can ask a question: what does God care about every bug? So the answer is that God is not like us. God is not like us. That's exactly the point. That God is interested in every little detail that there is in the world. So if every little detail is interested, how much more so the big details, namely to tell the world that there's God. That's the Torah, and that's the commandments, and that's the Torah portion of the week. We Jews have to learn, put our mind in the right place, and then the whole world will see what an amazing miracle the world is and how much God cares about every one of his creations in an individual way. And he wants us to be partners with him. That's the whole idea of the Torah. That's the idea of us Jews learning how to incorporate the messages of the Torah in every moment of our lives. Here we go. Hashayach is the connection of the holiday of Shavuot, which is the time of the giving of the Torah, with Shabbat, because Shavuot came right after Shabbat. This is especially what the rabbis say, the Kuli Alma, that everyone agrees that the Torah was given on Shabbat. Huh? Did you know that? God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. It was Shabbat. Cave and since that everything in the world, and especially in everything in the Torah, is very, very exact, how much more so this idea of the giving of the Torah must be very exact. So moving, it's understood. The fact that on Shabbat the Torah was given, and even more, it says that everyone agrees. That's what the Talmud says. Kuli Alma, everyone agrees that it was given on Shabbat. Mikav and since the Torah, since the giving of the Torah, and the idea of Shabbat, they both have a connection one to the other, a deep connection. What? Shabbat, the whole idea of Shabbat is rest. Resting. Shabbat tells us you don't have to do it all. Let God do something. Let God do something. Rely on God a little bit. A little bit. What's 1/7? What is it? 15% or something like that. A little bit rely on God. 13%. 1%. Let God do something. Take a rest. Like it says, when God created the world, what was the world missing? Rest. Shabbos, came rest. The Muslim, like we say in the blessing after eating, that's according to the language of the Mishnah. That God should give us Yom Shekula Shabbat, that we should come to the day which is total Shabbat, Umenucha Olamim, and total rest. What does it mean? That we should, when the days of the Moshiach, we'll see that really God is doing everything. The fact that we can go and plow our fields and work in our business and be businessmen and invest and be rich, and that power comes from God. Where does it come from? Right? Person wakes up in the morning, he loses his memory. Wakes up in the morning, he loses his memory. He's a multi-billionaire, the most intelligent person in the world. He's a pianist and he's a successful brain surgeon and he's the president, whatever you want to. The most successful person in the world wakes up in the morning and loses his memory. What's he got is worth nothing. Aren't you going to go to work? Work? What's work? What is work? He remembers words. He remembers how to speak. He doesn't forget everything. Right? If so, everything we have belongs to God. Everything we have is a miracle. Right? You wake up in the morning, God forbid, you wake up in the morning, you have a toothache. That's it. You're neutralized. Can't do anything. Right? All of your wisdom and all of your powers and everything like that. It's always so we have to realize that everything comes from God. That's Shabbat. Shabbat is the realization that in fact we have to be grateful to the Creator for everything. And even more in the prayer of Mincha of Shabbat, it says Yom Menucha Shalom. It says that it is a complete rest, peaceful rest. Menucha Shlema, a complete rest that you want, God. It says other languages of menucha. That depends. There's different prayer books have this whole idea of rest in the world. This is by means of the Torah. Kamayim is like the rabbi say in the sentence, "Vayi'erev vayiboker yom hashishi." It was on the evening, in the morning, the sixth day. Hey yetera ha shishi. It says all the other days of creation, God said it was the Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, the first day, second day, third day, Yom Echad. This is Yom Echad, Yom Sheni, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the last day, it says the sixth day. Why? When God created the world, he said it was the sixth day. It means there's one day that's a special sixth day. What's the sixth day? The sixth day of Sivan, when God gave the Torah. Malamed, this means that God made a condition with the world, that if the Jewish people receive the Torah, then the world will exist. And if not, then God said, I'm going to return the world back to confusion. Similarly, Eretz Yirav Shakata, like it says, the earth saw when God gave the Torah. It says, first of all, the earth was afraid, and then it became quiet. In the beginning, the world was afraid. The world didn't really have a basis. Well, the sof and an end is it became quiet. And therefore, everyone says that Shabbat, the Torah, was given. Why? Because by means of Shabbat, by means of the giving of the Torah on Shabbat, there was rest in the whole world. Shleimut ha'inyan, the whole idea of when Shabbat comes, peace comes. Like, let's say, I'll give you maybe an example. Maybe a person goes to a doctor, right? A doctor, and he checks him up, and this is the person has whatever it is, headaches and backaches. He doesn't know what to do. So he says, he goes to one doctor, to another doctor. No doctor helps. They make tests, they make investigations, they make this. Here I got the greatest doctor. He takes $10,000 an hour. A lot of money, but my head hurts, my back hurts. What am I going to do? Goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, gives a push like this over here in the left. I feel better. $10,000, please. Just one second. All the other doctors, they worked hard. They took tests. They took X-rays. They took this CAT scans. They took days and days to this, and I paid each one of them $1,000. And he says, listen, I know what to do. I don't have to put that much effort into it because I know what to do. You press over there. That's your problem. That's the thing of Shabbat. Shabbat is everybody knows what to do. You do what is exactly right. I don't know if you've ever seen great pianists play. Right? They're great pianists when they play. I mean, their fingers move faster than you could possibly think. They play, and it's beauty, and the music is just beautiful how it comes out. And you see them, and once in a while they swoon a little bit or something like that. But it's nothing. Sometimes they're concentrating. They look at the note, but they're not putting any tremendous effort into it. They're enjoying what they're doing. which is not the case. Someone who's just learning, he's putting a tremendous effort into every motion of his finger has to be working at it. He's thinking about it. Right? It's the same thing. When rest means that everything is working properly, right? But it's working. That's the idea. It's working. We're not talking about like when a person is dead, we say rest in peace, then nothing in his body is working. That's not rest. That's death. Right? Rest means that everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to work. Habir, the explanation in all this, how is it that rest is caused by Shabbat and rest is caused by the Torah? How? What's the connection between the two of them? Let's see. Should I bite this off, or maybe it's too much? Huh? All right, here we go. And why is Shabbat and the Torah bring rest into the world? Why? Ha'olam, the world on its own, was created in a way that it's dynamic. It's always moving. It's never at rest. The Kol Rosh, and first of all, the Shinuim, the Kololos Inyan Zman, first of all, time is always moving. And that is Chiluf v'Shinoi over Hovaviyeh. God created the world. It started before the world, there was no time. He created the world that was past, present, and future. In general, there's what's called in front of and behind us. What's in front of us, that's the future. What's behind us, that's the past. Call in Ibrahim, everything created in the world that it falls under the category of time and place. Right? You want to move from one place to another place, that takes time. You're going from the place where you are, that becomes the place where you were, and the place where you're going to, that's in the future. Everything, time and place, are dependent on everything. Shegeder Zman and Makom that are under change of time in such a way, She'em Mishtanim Kol Zman, that things change all the time. In addition, there's also change in everything. I mean, I think I'm no big, scientist, but I think that all the atoms and all the energy is constantly changing. I don't think there's anything that's ever at rest. I don't think that there's such a thing as like absolute zero. There's supposed to be absolute zero. There's no motion at all. Listen, I'm not a scientist, like I say, but as far as I know, there's not such a thing. There can't be such a thing. The closest that they got to it, as far as I know, is what they call outer space. What's between us and Mars? What's there? Right? There's little tiny planets. As far as I know, that there's as close to nothing as I don't understand what this means. But anyway, it's an absolute vacuum, the absolute zero, and absolute vacuum. Everything is always moving. Something is always changing. If for no other reason, then let's say there's nothing between us and Mars, but there's distance, there's space. Space is a thing, right? And the closer you get to Mars, there's less space between you. So there's everything in the world is always moving, changing. It's always dynamic. Well, the Hosef and the Aran, Shagam also dividing up into place. There's different levels of place, above, below, right, left, all the changes from one place to another. This is also connected with the opposite of rest. Everything is always moving, dynamic, alive. Since the kolom makom and even when something dies, it decays. It doesn't stay the way it is. I think that's called entropy, right? Isn't that called entropy? I never really could figure out what that word means, entropy. But anyway, I think that's what it means. Changes of energy. Kevin, since the kolom makom yesh et inyan hanagaso, everything has its conduct and its nature that's different from everything else. And going from one place to another place is kashura is you have to carry yourself, you have to change, you have to expend energy. The day of Shabbat brings rest to the world. Shabbat b'manucha. How can it be what on Shabbos things don't move? The world time stops. It says no. Kevin Shabriya and Istayim, since that the creation, God finished creating the world in 6 days, like it says, Vayachulu Hashemayim va'oretz v'kol tzavam, God finished the heavens and the earth and all of their hosts. Vayachal Elokim malachto, and God finished all of the work that He did. So we can feel in the whole world and in every detail of the world, ubakol hashinuim, and all of the changes and all of the, the permutations and differences that there are in time and place, how in fact that everything was created and everything is being created from one God. Somehow or other, this whole entire business is one. Hakavana achas, there's one intention that God has in all and each and every one of the details of creation. Sheyi nalit, which this intention of creating, this is higher than any possible change. Therefore, Hariyi Mevia, it brings rest into the whole creation. Because it's attached to menucha, whether in time, like we said before, that Shabbat is the highest level of time, and beginning afterwards to recount again, Yom Rishon, the first day, the second day, and also in place, like it says, Shabo Ishta, that in Shabbat, each person is supposed to rest in his area, right? You're not allowed to go outside of the city too far, for instance. There's what's called Tchumim. There's boundaries on Shabbat, Shabbat's boundaries. You're not supposed to go out. So that's the idea of rest, of that there's something stable underlying all change that never changes. Hashlemus, this is really accomplished when God gave the Torah. When the Jewish people received the Torah from God, since this is the ultimate completion of the creation of the world was created for the sake of the Torah and for the sake of the Jewish people, that we should reveal the oneness of God in the world. When we realize that there is a purpose to the creation, that there's one purpose to the creation that we should feel in the whole world, in every detail of the world, time and place, we should feel the purpose of the world. This brings rest. By means of doing the condition that God made with the world. If the Jewish people receive the Torah, then you'll exist. Let's go back to the example of music, right? If you look at a piece of music, you don't know what's going on. If you know music a little bit, then you look at the music, you get an overview of the whole entire piece. An overview of the whole. Then now when you're not playing individual notes with individual harmony and individual rhythm and things like that. You're playing one piece. That's in your mind. You're playing this one work. It's one thing. And all the harmony and all the work, that goes under the one category of this particular piece. And all of that goes under the category of harmony and beauty. So it's true, the fingers are moving at a tremendous pace, and there's harmony, and there's all this counterpoint and everything like that. Right? But that's the details. The details is unified, and it comes to rest by the big picture, which the big picture in some ways is more real than the details. It includes in it all the details. Without the big picture, if there's no such thing as music, so there's no playing, right? There's no such thing as beauty, then there's no music. Okay, here we're talking about God who creates being, who creates all music, who creates everything. This brings rest to the whole entire world, that's why God gave the Torah. That's why God said if the Jews receive the Torah, then the world will exist. If not, then the world will just go into confusion. The explanation is, like it is in the simple speaking, is the nature of people is when a person does not feel any intention or any purpose in his life. Like it says, I was created to serve my creator. Then you cannot really be at rest. Even since Shashino Yazaman, changing time and place, and all the details of life, they cause an uncertainty, a lack of how do you say, there's a word for it in English, of a peace in life. I'll think of the word. You can't really be at rest with yourself. You're always nervous, anxious. Person always anxious. Anxiety, doesn't know what's going to be it. Sheshoverato, that breaks him. Only when a person feels that there's a purpose in the world that's concealed in every detail, then this brings peace. This is above any movement or any change that there is. And especially in a person, the completion of man, when a person, like we see, a person that's found more complete when he is at rest, when he knows what he's doing. Like I gave the example of the doctor. He knows exactly what to do. Menucha said he sees the big picture. There's, by the way, there's a lot of people in the world, free thinkers and things like that. There's no purpose in the world. There's no purpose. You just, roll your boat down the stream. Life is but a dream. No purpose. All these people, they're at rest, and you see that these people are not at rest. As soon as something happens that's against what they want, or there's a movement that's against what they want, then they go berserk. Maybe the best example is communism. Communism, everybody's going to be free and there won't be any of this. And anyone who disagrees, they killed, right? What's his name? Mao Zedong killed like 100 million people because they can't take any. But if you see that the whole world is being created by a creator and there's a purpose, so every detail of the world is just part of that whole big picture. And you just have to know how to react. That brings up a certain level of peace in your soul, a lack of anxiety. And even more, this brings peace not only to a person himself, but everything that the person does in the world. Things can be done more completely and more successful when they're done with peace. You're not going to cheat, you're not going to lie, because you realize that if you do what you're supposed to, then God will provide. And if God doesn't provide, so look in permissible ways to alleviate the situation. Again, we can't say the Torah is not an ATM machine. We see the Jews have suffered terribly in the world, and the Jews that have believed in God have suffered no less than the people who the Holocaust killed everybody equally, and the pogroms and etc. etc. So this is not 100. The Rebbe is not giving us a guarantee for success in life, but he is giving us a guarantee of purpose in life. It brings peace to the whole entire world. Similarly, we can also understand, so to speak, when God gave the Torah. Saying when the Jewish people received the Torah, there was revealed the whole purpose of the world for the sake of the Torah and for the sake of the Jewish people. Namely, that the Jewish people should receive the Torah and the commandments, and they should do them. And this will have an effect on all the non-Jews, that the non-Jews should do their 7 commandments. And by means of this, the whole world becomes a dwelling for God. Therefore, this brings peace into the whole world. I mean, generally speaking, this whole Holocaust and these wars and things are, generally speaking, true. There are holy wars, it's true, yes. But generally speaking, wars are caused by people who can't stand opposition. They can't stand the world not being the way they want. And as a result, they're always uptight. They're always anxious. They're always paranoid. That from this comes menucha. There's rest when you have a purpose. Then there's rest in all the details. Until we get to Shabbat. Shabbat is the ultimate. That from it, all the days are blessed. The 6 days of creation, when a person works in the world, then the Shabbat, the rest that he got on Shabbat, the awareness that there's God that's creating the world and he wants us to be in the world. But our heads should be in Shabbos. Our heads should understand that it's God's world. It's not all up to us. That also when we work at every detail, then every detail in the world will be in a way of rest. We won't be uptight. Then every detail will be with a purpose in a way that is calm. So automatically, then everything will be done in a complete way. That's the purpose of the Torah. That's the purpose of Shabbat, to bring stability to the world, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Yom Yom.